So, good evening, everyone. My name is Tasha Smutney. I am a double gold consultant and a two-time IATAN card holder. We're going to talk about all the basics, everything that goes into booking, whether it be the steps to booking, as well as the things you want to be thinking about, and all of that. Starting with, what happens when we get contacted by a client, because that's really important, because there's no booking if we don't make sure that step goes well. All right. So, we're going to go over the client consult, how we research quotes, how we deliver quotes, and the closing of a sale, getting people to bite and want to book, right? The booking details, what you do, and then the next steps after that booking is made, right? So, qualifying. You will hear us a lot of times say, did you qualify the client? All right. This is the process we use to determine how serious and how ready a client is to book, right? There are people out there who are window shopping. There are people out there who are looking to see if you can just beat a price they found online, right? What deals do you have for me? Well, it's only a deal if you see the value in what I'm providing for you, not just, can you get this for cheaper, right? We do talk a lot in some other trainings. We have a whole training on your value as a travel agent, but we do need to know, is this person serious about booking with you if you find what they're looking for, or are they going to waste your time? This call helps with that. It's also a chance for you to gather information so that you can properly plan and customize travel plans for them, right? Our job as a client, for our clients, is not just to book a trip, just find them something to book. Our job is to match what the client wants to what we find. Not just what they want, but what's going to be the right fit for them based on what we get from this phone call. So, lots of info there. And then I'm going to actually show you these forms that we use so we can go through it a little bit. Number one, when you make an appointment with the client, that consult should be a phone appointment. That is the best way to get the most information, to gauge from tone of voice what they're saying, but also to make sure there's no miscommunications. When you are emailing back and forth, messaging or texting, things can be misunderstood. Things can be missed. It's also going to take you a lot more time, right? I don't care if it's your best friend. Hey, here's a little info on what I want to do. Here's some more. Hey, when can we sit down and talk about this? If it's someone you know in person, it doesn't have to be a phone call. It can be, let's meet for coffee and talk about it. You get to choose that, right? But some people prefer to do a Zoom call as well. They want to be on Zoom so they can, like they're having a face-to-face meeting. Whatever works for you and your client, but you want to be hearing their voice and talking about it. And that's going to save you a lot of headaches in the long run. Even if it feels really scary and intimidating, it's going to save you headaches. We do have a recording, but also we do trainings called Qualifying Your Client, where we actually do that role play. Somebody pretends to be the client. We go through what to do. Now, come as prepared as possible for that phone call. Meaning, whatever information they already told you, know what they told you. Have a sticky note, pull up the message they sent you. So you told me you're looking into a trip over Christmas time. It's going to be 7 adults, even though some of them are your quote kids because they're grown-ups now, right? They're adult children, whatever the case may be. Whatever they told you, know that information. Have something written down so you can refer to that. It shows them that you care about what they told you. You're not just looking to make a sale. You care about them as a client, right? This is a relationship building business. Your goal is to get them to trust you, because if they don't trust you, they're never going to give you their credit card to make a booking. Okay. We do have inquiry forms for you to use to get all the details. Basic things it's going to include, and then we're going to look at some of them and go through them. But the number of travelers, how many are adults, how many are children, and their ages. Do they have any special needs, medical needs, requests they need for travel, accessibility, any of that? Number of rooms and which guests would be in each room. So if they want more than one room, is it, we want, this is a family with adults and 2 or 3 kids, and then we want to, they want a suite, and then they want a regular room for grandma and grandpa. Whatever the situation is, we need to know how they want that broken down, right? The type of bedding they want to request and the view. Some of these places, like, it's going to say standard view, which could mean a parking lot. Or do they want ocean front, that they can walk out of their building or out of their room directly to the ocean? Do they want to be right next to the pool and see that pool? Where do they want that? Regardless of what kind of place we're booking. That can also be doing with a cruise ship. What kind of room? Do they want an interior? Do they want to make sure they at least have a window? I will tell you, if I were your client, I can't handle an interior room with no view to outside. I have to be able to, from my room, be able to know what time of day it is. The only times I've ever even remotely felt seasick on a cruise ship is, first of all, very rough waters, but in an enclosed space that has no windows to outside. I need a window. I prefer a balcony, but I'm okay with an ocean view, right? Those types of things we need to find out. If it's a theme park, which type of view, preferred location, not preferred location, do they care? Do they need to be close to the transportation that the theme parks provide from their resorts to get to the parks? That's what we're talking about when we talk about the view and the location of the room. What type of environment or vibe are they looking for this trip? And this goes for all areas of travel. If they're traveling to Europe, are they looking for, we want to hit just major cities, or they want to get a little off the beaten path and go to those less touristy places? Are they looking for a party on that cruise ship or a party at that resort? Or are they looking for chilled out, relaxing? They want a lot of activities. They just want a pool, a beach, and a spa. What are they looking for? Right? I could book multiple families the exact same week on a trip to Mexico, even to Cancun, specific city or area, and give them all a completely different experience based on what's going to fit them. So we need to know that. What are their goals for this trip, right? Preferred airlines that they have, or avoid these airlines. Many people, whether they have points accumulated or not, maybe they're working on accumulating points on an airline and they want to stay on that airline. They're loyal to it. Do they want to be able to choose their seats? What seats would they prefer? All of that info is going to help you when making the booking. Also, it's going to determine the class of ticket. Some tickets don't allow. They're going to save you money, but you can't choose the seats, right? Are their passports up to date? Do they have passports yet? And depending on when they're traveling internationally, if they don't have passports yet or haven't started the process, it might be a deal breaker, right? So we need to know that info. There's also info about certain countries, they have to be valid for 6 months after travel. The reasoning is, if for some reason they get stuck there, they want to make sure that they're still able to return to the United States or whatever country they're coming from. Are they ready to book now? That's actually really important. Hey, just so I know, are you ready to make a deposit or pay for this booking if I find what you're looking for? Because pricing is so fluid in travel, it can change really easily. And the worst thing is to give someone a quote and then they're ready to book a couple days later and it went up $1,000. and now they can no longer afford that trip. Whereas if I saw that and now they're ready to book that day, I wouldn't have given that as an option, right? You must get a budget. I put must in all capitals for a reason. A lot of people say they just told me, not too expensive, or money isn't an issue. No one really means that. No one means that money's not an issue. When they say money's not an issue, they really do not mean that. Everyone has a price in their head, right? So let's take a look, make sure everyone knows how to get our inquiry forms. So you can find them a couple of places. Number one, in your new agent information, but also if you go to recordings and info and go to booking travel, you will need to be signed into the team website. Right here, we have cruise inquiry, land inquiry. I don't know why that says that. And Disney inquiry. Disney has some specific things, so we have a separate form for it. All right. No matter what, and we've put some little notes in there for you to help you out, but there's all that stuff we need to find out, right? We want to use these inquiry forms. We gave you lots of detailed questions to ask your clients so that you can just come in and fill these in. Some people like to print them out and they like to do it by hand. Some people like to, what I typically do, these are in my Google Doc, but what I would do, I would click file, make a copy, and I would call this like John Smith 2024 Christmas. So I know like what trip I'm doing this for, right? So that way I keep my original template fine. Okay. And then I can come in and I can type right in here. And again, we do ask those detailed questions, including what do you like to do most when you're on vacation? You want adventure and exploration versus relaxation. How important is a beach? Right? Those kinds of things. Remember, this consultation call, it's not an interview. Make it a conversation. You're talking to somebody who's a parent and you hear them have to stop for a minute and address something their kid has just asked them. Oh, I'm so sorry, my child just seen you. No, not a big deal. Like, oh, how old are your children? Right? Show them that you care about them as a person. You don't just care about making the sale. Because another big thing is we don't want to just get one-time clients. We want to get repeat clients. And if they feel like you value them as a person and all of those things, they're more likely to come back to you, right? When we talk about flights, make sure you find out if there's more than one airport that's an option. Times a day, that if they have preferences, are they okay taking an overnight flight either there or back, right? When we talk about class of ticket, we're not just talking, ooh, do you want to fly first class? Most people are not flying first class unless you get super luxury, really wealthy clients. They're not flying first class. But the way that airlines have now started doing things, you have really basic economy, which doesn't even include sometimes on whatever airline a carry-on bag without paying for it versus, main cabin, they call it on some of the airlines, that includes picking your seat, a carry-on, and your personal item, or we can upgrade that and it includes the price of the checked bag. So when we're talking those kinds of things, right? So do you want us to include the price of the checked bag? Now, what I often do, I will check the airline that I'm coming up with. I'll check their policies for checked bags. If the amount of difference for the flight is going to be more than it'll cost them at the airport to check their bag, I don't upgrade to that higher one just for a checked bag. I do check it based on that airline. Do they want only nonstop? Right? That's important. Now, we do want to be considerate and respectful when asking about special needs. medical, any disabilities, mobility, vision, food allergies. We added this in recently. Does anyone need extra leg room or space for airline seats or rental cars? We had an agent recently who had a client get really upset. They got to the rental car place and it was the exact kind of car that they had requested, but they had 2 or 3 guys that were over 6 feet tall and there was not enough leg room. It was a compact car. It was a small car. And they chose at that counter to upgrade the car, and there was an additional fee. And they were upset with the travel agent when they got exactly what they were told they were booking. So we want to ask that because it could also mean somebody who, is a person of a certain size that needs 2 airline seats. Okay. Some airlines have policies for that. Southwest especially has a policy for that, that typically, if the flight is not completely full, they won't require them to buy a ticket. They will give them that additional seat, but they do have to request it. So, finding that out so that we can make accommodations, right? Do they want a rental car? Do they have a preferred rental car company? When we talk about travel insurance, I don't actually word it, would you like travel insurance? Because a lot of people will just be, no, we don't need it. We're not going to cancel. Okay. It's not just for cancellation. I say, so that you know, I usually quote all of my trips and packages with travel insurance, and here's why. Right? A lot of people think it's just for cancellation, and I'll tell the client this, but it can help with other things. You're leaving the country, and if something were to happen that you needed medical attention, it would cover that, even if it's a reimbursement. If you need to go to the medical center on that cruise ship for even, you need an antibiotic, you got sick, your insurance isn't going to cover that. You're going to have to pay out of pocket and then get it reimbursed by the travel insurance. It will cover those things. We don't want to ever think of something going wrong or getting sick on vacation, but it does happen. It even will cover medical evacuation back to the United States. A lot of these cover like up to $50,000 for medical evacuation. If that needs to happen to somebody and they don't have insurance, they could be in debt for the rest of their lives because of it. When they could spend $300 and get travel insurance. It also covers expenses incurred during delays over, I think, 3 or 6 hours. If the airline doesn't provide hotel, because they don't have to provide a hotel even if your flight is canceled or you're stuck overnight necessarily. It depends on what caused that. If it's weather, they're not responsible for providing anything. If it's their faults, like they didn't properly staff the plane or there's a mechanical issue, they typically have to cover it. But an act of nature, they don't have to cover anything for you. So travel insurance would then pick up the bill after the fact. Tell them save all the receipts. I had a client recently. They were traveling with 13 people, including multiple children from the age of 1 to 10. And they were traveling, and all of a sudden I get a phone call that they were going to Aruba. I get a text that says, we just landed in San Juan, Puerto Rico. They were direct flights, nonstop flights to Aruba. I said, excuse me? You just landed where? The Aruba airport is completely shut down. They diverted us to Puerto Rico. We don't really know anything yet. I said, okay. That gets handled at the airport. Whatever information they give you, I need you to let me know as soon as possible, right? Because I called JetBlue and JetBlue said, well, we can't tell you anything because since the flight has already departed, it's handled at the airport, whatever they're going to do. What ended up happening was they stayed overnight in San Juan. Everybody from that flight was put back on the same flight that then continued the next morning to Aruba. Everything was covered as far as while they were there, but they missed a night at their all-inclusive resort. So when they came home, I helped them with how to find the filing and all that stuff for their insurance so that they can get reimbursed for that night that they missed. And it was, between all the rooms they had, about $1,700 that they missed out on the all-inclusive. And they couldn't extend their trip on the other end because they had to be back for something. So it can cover stuff like that. So that when we look at things like future travel credit versus cash refund, the only difference in the coverage is for cancellation. If they cancel, they get a credit to rebook with you and whatever vendor you used with the credit. If they get a cash refund, it's exactly that. They get their money back. The rest of the coverage is exactly the same. We've also recently added these. Have you already priced this trip online? If yes, can you send me the screenshots of the checkout page so I can see exactly what it is so that I can compare it? Because we do have vendors that have price protection that will price match, right? Are you already working with another travel agent? Or am I the only travel agent you're working with? Right? Now, sometimes I already know the answer to these and I don't ask them. Like if I talk about budget and they say, I don't know, I have no idea what this would even cost. They haven't priced it online, right? And that kind of a thing. If it's someone I know personally and they're like, we got overwhelmed and I know you're a travel agent, so I called you. I don't need to ask them if they're working with someone else, right? Budget can be a hard point. A lot of people don't want to tell you, not because they don't want to tell you, but again, they might have no idea, no concept of what it would cost. Or they're afraid if they tell you how much they can spend, you're going to spend every penny of it. But they don't want to spend what they can, right? Well, we can spend 15,000, but we'd prefer to spend 10, right? They don't want to tell you that higher amount. I reassure my clients that I say, you know what? I need to know what you are comfortable spending on this trip. We cannot go above this amount. And I am not going to hit that amount unless I absolutely have to. But I need to know what's available so I can get you everything you're looking for, right? Sometimes it helps them to think about, well, what do you want to pay per person? What do you want to pay per night? When they can break it down, sometimes that helps people think of the totals a little bit more as well. Do you want to pay in full, or can you pay in full, or do you want to make a deposit and make payments? Again, sometimes it's not an option to make a deposit and make payments depending on how close to booking they are, right? But sometimes we can find some of the same things or better things or different things on a wholesale vendor that requires pay in full. So you do need to know if they have that available to them, right? Are they the only financial decision maker for the trip? I get a good amount of people who say it's them and another family, but I only talk to one point of contact in this initial call. I have somebody that I know from work right now, and I said, you know what? When we do the follow-up call, let's schedule it so both of you can be on this when I present the quote. That way they both get the info and they can both make an informed decision. And then I say, if I find what you're looking for within your budget, are you ready to book right away? Are you ready to book with me? Right? And then we set a follow-up date and time while we're on the phone with them. Or if for some reason you're going to be having a follow-up with more than one person, it's going to be like 2 or 3 friends on the phone with you. I do say, hey, if you need to check with them, let's plan for, like this person I just said, let's plan for next weekend. Let me know a time that your friend is available so we can all 3 of us talk. And they texted me back the next day and told me, hey, these are the times we're available. And we've already set the appointment, right? And again, the other forms are very similar. They just ask specific things to that. Like, have you ever cruised before? Which cruise line? Do you have a loyalty number? Those kinds of things. Are we adding a flight? How far are you from the port? If they live more than 3 hours from the port, it's almost a necessity, but extremely highly recommended that they need to be at a hotel in the port city the night before. If they're 3 hours or more from the port driving, no one should ever fly in the day of a cruise. If something goes wrong, they could miss that cruise. They could miss the cruise. Cruise ships do not wait. All right. Some people do like to, so we're talking a night in a hotel the night before. All right. And then you would ask them similar questions about what do they want for that hotel. Some people like to go in a few days earlier and enjoy that city. Some people like to stay a few days after. Some people like to do a cruise out of Port Canaveral, which is about 45 minutes to an hour from Orlando, and add a couple days at Disney. Whatever the case may be, we want to find out around that cruise. Okay. So that's why we're looking at the appropriate inquiry form. Okay. So again, we call that qualifying the client. How qualified are they to work with you and make a booking, right? Are they actually going to? Now, we've done all that. As a new agent, you are going to want to check in with your mentor, right? Hey, this is what they told me. What should I do? Let us help you, walk you through it, guide you where to look, all of those things, right? If for some reason your mentor is not experienced in the type of trip they're looking for, they're going to be able to direct you to the person on the team who is. I will tell you right now, I would love to be making group bookings, like big groups, but I never have. It's not something that I've done. So I'm going to refer you to somebody else on the team, right? Disney, cruises, all inclusives. I've done a ton of that. I've also done a few trips with multiple destinations in Europe, all things I can help with and am experienced with. No one can be experienced in everything. That's why our whole team works together to help each other, right? In general, after that phone call, you're going to want to check different vendors, right? We all have preferred vendors we like, or I always check here first. But there's not necessarily a go-to, like what's the best vendor for? However, if you're booking a cruise, I'm going to say go to the cruise line that you're looking at. If you're booking Disney, go right to Disney. If you're booking Universal, it's through Vax. There's a vendor for Universal right on Vax, right? Some things you do go to specific vendors. However, if I'm doing an all-inclusive, yeah, I usually go to Vax first, and my preference there is FunJet. But I check prices other places. I will also check American Airlines vacations. I will also check something like Pleasant Holidays. I want to make sure that I'm getting the best value for my client while also getting the best commission for myself, right? We do want to check reviews. Make sure that you also understand sometimes reviews should be taken with a grain of salt. Meaning, some people will only leave a review if something didn't meet what they expected was going to be there. Even if there was any indication that that's what would happen at that trip. Some people will put really negative, bad reviews that aren't true because something upset them. If I scroll and I see all fives and then like one or two people put a 1-star review, I'm going to believe those fives more than those couple of ones, right? And read why it says that. Oh, I gave it a 1-star because check-in took forever. What they didn't tell you is they showed up at 10 in the morning and check-ins at 4 and their room wasn't ready, right? So that's what I mean by check reviews, grain of salt. Now, if somebody is saying, if lots of people are saying it's dirty and there's bugs, run away, obviously. But if you're unsure, again, you're working with people on our team, we're helping you. A lot of times we can say, based on that call, hey, check this resort out, check this cruise line out, check out this to book what you're looking for. Make sure when you're putting this quote together, you put all the elements of the trip into it. You're doing a package with flights and a hotel or a resort. You're doing a flight and a cruise and a hotel before the cruise. Make sure you put in or find ways. How are they getting from the airport to those places? Transfers. You don't want somebody to get there and then they're stuck at the airport and they don't know what to do. We're adding those things in so that everything's included for them. And we're looking again, you heard me say best value, not the cheapest price. Sometimes we get what we pay for. Usually we get what we pay for. A lot of times we hear people saying, well, I'm finding it for way more money on this vendor than here. Well, if it's two of our vendors and it actually is all the exact same elements, then use the one that's giving the client a better price. Now, if you're just looking online on something like hotels.com, and now you're looking at our vendor, hotels.com didn't necessarily include flights. And if it did, didn't include transfers, doesn't include the travel insurance, might not be the same exact kind of room. So you do have to get to that checkout page and compare exactly apples to apples. Is this exactly the same package or not? And you know what? If you're finding it on the resort or hotel's page for a lot less money, we call up that hotel. Or if there's a place that says on that website you can book as a travel agent, you book through there. A lot of times you do have to book as a travel agent by calling and asking for a commissionable rate, but we can do that. We can call a hotel and book directly with a commissionable rate. They just ask you to give Archer's license number, your agency's IATA number, and then you can do it that way. So it is our job to shop the product and find the best value. Okay. It's not our job to make sure that our clients follow the requirements. It is our job to inform clients about any legal, customs, border control, any of those requirements. You want to be checking travel.state.gov, right? Passport details and the validity requirements. You want to make sure the client's passports will be valid per the requirements of the country. It will also tell you any information if they need to get a visa, if there's a fee for entry. We want to get all that information and pass it on to the client. Now, we can't make them do it, but we can give them that information. However, when it comes to passports, if they don't have it valid, I'm not booking them for a trip. Like if it says they need it 6 months post travel and it expires the day after they're supposed to come home, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to book this for you because they're not going to let you on the plane. And then you're going to be angry with me, even though I told you this, right? You can also on this website find any forms needed for entry for different countries. For example, Aruba has an entry form that has to be completed or they won't let you on the plane. They also, as of July 1st of this year, there's a $20 per person fee for entry. It's part of that form they have to fill out. Now, our vendors and suppliers are pretty good about it. Like they'll send me, FunJet has sent me things saying, reminder, here's the information for Aruba for your client. But not all of them do that. And it's our responsibility to make sure we've told our clients. We can find details if people with criminal pasts are able to enter that country. Certain criminal records, no matter how long ago they were, don't allow people to enter. I feel like there's something with entering Canada from a cruise ship if you have any kind of an arrest or a conviction in your past. So you want to look at that info. Travel.state.gov is also going to give you updated US passport processing time. Whatever the current processing times are, it's going to be on there. Okay. So that's really helpful to know if your clients are still in the process of getting one or renewing one. That's important to know. So now we're talking about delivering that quote. We are not just emailing a quote to the client. Do I prepare a quote? Typed up information? Yeah, for me. I prepare it for me. Now, I have something ready oftentimes, but you don't have to make like this beautiful like quote on Canva to send out to somebody, right? You need the details to give them. We're delivering over the phone because we want to make the quote come to life, right? Hey, I found this great package that meets this, and this off of your must-have list. I found all your must-haves, and I found this from your list of what would really be nice. I can even have pictures ready that I can text them. This is what your room's going to look like. This is what the beach looks like. Hey, I'm going to email you a video about this ship, what the ship looks like that you're going to go on. Make that come to life. Show them pictures. When it comes to options, less is more. Don't come back with 4 options for them to choose from. Don't even come back with 2 or 3 if you don't need to. If I find what my client's looking for that I know they will love in their budget with the right dates, why give them more than one option? I give them lots of options. Now they still have to decide between them. And they're not going to be ready to book that night that I give them that quote or that day. Because now they have to figure out which one they want to choose. With that being said, do I have one ready and usually a backup plan? Absolutely. I will have a backup plan if they're like, I don't know, right? When you're delivering that quote, listen to your client. Listen to the way they respond. If they say, oh, that sounds great, that doesn't sound like they think it sounds great, right? If they're like, I am so excited that you found this. I can't believe that's everything we wanted. You can tell they really mean it. Listen to tone of voice, listen to what they're saying, but how they're saying it, right? But most of my clients come to me because they're overwhelmed by the process and their choices. Why am I going to give them 3 or 4 choices? Now they're never going to decide, right? They've said they like what we put together. They've chosen what they're going to do. Before they're booking, here's the info you need from them. You need the client information, spelling of names, birth dates. You don't always need everyone's address, but you at least need the lead guest, the first guest's address. And you're going to need to see those documents, right? Passports. I ask even if they're not traveling internationally, I ask to see the license of every adult, a government ID from everyone who has one. Because now I'm making sure that I'm matching how it's spelled, and that's going to be what they show them at the airport. They can get really held up if a birth date's wrong, if a spelling's wrong, all of those things at the airport. We want to make sure we know, are they accepting or denying insurance? Now it is on the next form that you can indicate that they're saying I deny insurance. You always want to have documentation if they've chosen not to take insurance. It is on our credit card authorization form now. It didn't used to be. We're preparing a credit card authorization form for them to sign. It does require, and I've gotten confirmation within the last couple of weeks from Archer, it does require that you have a photo of the ID of the person whose card it is, and it requires a photo of the card with the numbers showing. Now they can block off the last 4 digits because those 4 digits are on the credit card authorization form. They've also told me that the client is able to add the CVV number on the credit card authorization form so that they don't have to send a picture of that on the credit card. But if they don't put it on there, they have to show a picture of the CVV form. All right. So we do need those from people. There are ways that we can have people send it to us in a secured way, right? Password protected emails, different ways they could do it. I have clients that'll send me different parts of this all different ways. Like they'll email me one picture, they'll text me another, they'll like Facebook message me the third thing so that it's not all together because that's how they feel more comfortable. But again, remember, this is a huge reason we have to get trust for our clients because we have to ask them for pictures of their credit cards and we're using their credit card. And a lot of times for a lot of money, right? They have to trust that we're only going to use it for what they've given us permission to use it for. When you're booking, here are some things we want to triple check. Did you do the correct airports? Did they want to fly to Portland, Maine or Portland, Oregon? Make sure you have the right one. Make sure those names match passports or government IDs if they're not flying internationally. Make sure the birth dates all match. Did you get the right travel dates or did you put the wrong year in? Check it. Did you include the transfers and the travel protection? You want to double check that you included, or triple check even, that you included everything, that all of the legal things match, that you didn't make a mistake before you hit click to book and you charge that client's card with the vendor. Triple check everything. Adding on to the booking when you're making it. Ask those clients if they have a frequent flyer number for the airlines that you're booking with. Do they use TSA PreCheck or Global Entry? It's going to be listed as their known travel number or Global Entry number. Add that passport info right there. Now, the TSA PreCheck and the passport and the frequent flyer numbers, typically it can be added to our vendors or it can be added directly on the airline. Once you have the airline confirmation number, you could also do it directly on the airline. I always double check that it usually gets communicated to the airline, but I always double check that it is on that airline reservation as well, that it did get transferred over. Okay. Because if you have TSA PreCheck and it's not on the flight information, they're not letting you go through TSA PreCheck. I've had that happen myself. Somehow it wasn't on my own booking. And for personal reasons, I can't go through the body scanner because of a medical device I wear. So I had to deal with like full body pat down because I couldn't do TSA PreCheck that day. And if that happens to a client, they're going to be really upset with you, right? So make sure we get that stuff on there. Other details. If somebody is traveling with a minor outside of the country without both parents traveling, typically to be safe, they want a notarized letter from the other parent authorizing them. Now, if there's sole custody, that's not usually an issue. If it's a child in foster care, you have to be working with the social workers and all that information, right? But if both parents who have legal rights and custody are not traveling, they may not ask for that letter at customs, but if they do, you don't want them to not have it. All right. That has to do with, unfortunately, potential kidnappings and worries about that, right? Be sure layover times are long enough. For domestic within the US, an hour is usually long enough, but not if they're traveling with small children, right? Nothing less than an hour for sure. But if they're traveling with small children, they might need a 2-hour layover to make sure they can get food, to make sure, if those little ones need diaper changes, clothing changes, or they just have little legs and it takes them a long time to walk, or the parents are carrying them so it takes them a longer time to walk because they could be in different terminals, right? International, you're going to want, like when they're coming back, especially their first stop in the US, you're going to want a 3-hour layover at least because they have to go through customs the first time they touch down in the US to then transfer to a US to US flight. Okay. Add any special needs, medical needs, food allergies to the reservations at the time of booking. And then any other special requests. Oh, we'd like our rooms to be adjoining. We'd like our rooms to be on the ground floor. or we'd like a high level floor, right? We'd like to be in a building with an elevator because somebody uses a mobility scooter. Make all of those at the time of booking. Sometimes you can do it through the vendor. Sometimes you have to do it direct with the hotel, right? After you've made the booking, you're sending the confirmation to the clients. Now, I typically, take the email I get or send myself an email from the vendor, and then I copy and paste it and I brand it with my own business. So I'm not sending it from FunJet or whatever it is. I'm sending it from Traveling with Tasha. All right. But we make sure they check those spellings and birth dates, especially if there's flights. You can easily change that within the first 24 hours. They can reticket the flight really easy. But after that, it's a lot harder and it might change the price. Okay. We're going to want to give the clients a timeline of what to expect from you. Hey, your trip's for not for over a year. So unless you need to change something, you're probably not going to hear from me until this date, right? Because there's not really much for me to do until then. Let them know those final payment dates and when you'll be contacting them about that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't contact them the day of the final payment, right? It's really a good practice to confirm the booking with the resort, not just the vendor, right? A lot of agents, after they make that booking, they might wait till the next day to make sure it hits in the computer system, but they'll call the resort and they'll say, hey, I just want to check. I booked through this vendor. Can I get the resort booking number? That's how you can confirm with them that it was made. Especially things like Evo Plus. That's going to be a different booking number on Evo Plus than it's going to be the hotel's actual booking number. All right. Expedia as well. Those are ones I always check. I always check with those ones. A lot of the international resorts, they will have a US number. Or the other thing I've done is I have an app that I use that is web-based calling called Text Now that I use that I can call international over my Wi-Fi. All right. Confirm any special requests or needs that you put on the booking directly with the resort right after you've made that booking so that you make sure the resort actually got that info from the vendor. Submit your commission tracking form as soon as the booking is made. Also, we'd like you to fill out our booking shout out form. Many agents don't realize this, but as mentors and leaders on the team, we have zero way of knowing that you made a booking unless you tell us. Like, we can't see your bookings and information in our back office or anything like that. And we want to celebrate you. Okay. So, just so you know where to find those things, on our team website, at the very end, is it on this page? Nope. On the homepage. It used to be on there too. On the homepage, if you scroll down past our leaders on the team and our events, booking shout outs, there's a Google form here that you could fill out. Now, if you're somebody who's making a bunch of bookings and you don't really want to be shouted out, fill it out once a month so we know your monthly total. We do like to, in our team meetings, announce our team's booking total for the month. So if you can add it to that, we would love that. And you could even indicate on that, I don't want to be shouted out, right? There are people who don't want that. They don't want to be shouted out on Facebook and Discord. So we don't do it if you don't want to. But we do want to include everyone's total sales in our monthly sales. Okay. So that's part of it. And then your commission tracking form, you're going to find through your travel site. All right. I don't know why it's saying I'm not logged in. This is your second back office. So whether it looks like this or whether you're here, if you're here, you click dashboard. And then right here, commissions, commission tracking form. You can also, if you go, oh, I don't remember if I submitted it or not, you can go into submitted commissions and it'll show you them. Okay. So those are important to do right after booking as well. Because you don't want to forget to fill out your commission tracking form because then you're not going to get paid. Because again, that's the only way that Archer can connect a booking directly to you. Like they will get a check from Royal Caribbean for all of the bookings that are commissions are due at that time and like a list of booking numbers. And somebody at Archer has to connect them back to the commission tracking forms, right? Tasks that you want to put on your calendar. Feel free to like screenshot these 2 pages too. But 2 to 3 weeks, and then again 1 day prior to the final payment, send a reminder. I also will send a new credit card authorization at that 2 to 3 weeks out. 2 weeks prior to the trip, contact the resort, reconfirm special requests. You can also ask them if there's anything complimentary they can send on your behalf to the client. A bottle of wine, some chocolates, something like that. Okay. 1 to 2 weeks prior to the trip, check for any flight updates or changes. If the seats changed, I've had flight numbers change before, but the schedule's the same. The flight changes, sometimes the times change like by 5 minutes, sometimes they change by like 40 minutes. Get that information. If something has changed, you obviously communicate that with the client, right? A week prior, you're going to reconfirm everything with the resort, the transfers, everything. I also, in that week prior, will send my clients a smaller 1-page document with all the updated info, including how do you find the people that are going to do your transfers. And you'll find that on our vendors or when you call to confirm that transfer. Hey, how's my client going to find you when they get off the plane? The day before the travel, we check our clients in for flights, both at the beginning and the end of the trip. Really nice touch. Nobody wants us to worry about that, especially the day before they're coming home, right? Or if they're on a cruise ship and didn't get Wi-Fi, they have no way to check in. This is the second page, so if you want to screenshot it. The day before the travel, text your clients, be like, hey, have a great trip. You have any last-minute questions about your trip? Make sure they know what's going on. Now, I do this while my clients are on the trip. I will mail them a thank you card. I got mine from Vistaprint because I wanted to make it easier on myself. I don't even have to write in it. And it has my name already signed. I just put their name. You can go to the dollar store. If you're not making money, don't spend lots of money. But you can go to the dollar store, get a package of thank you cards. I also put 2 business cards in my thank you card, one for them to give to a friend. Okay. The day after the client returns from the trip, you can email them some kind of a traveler feedback form or email them or text them and say, hey, how was your trip? I'd love to hear about it. I'd also love if you could leave me a review on my Facebook business page or on my Google page for my business. People don't necessarily think to leave you a review if you don't ask for it. Add to your calendar expected commission payment date. Well, they traveled this date. I might expect it on these commission payout dates. And if you're not sure how to figure that out, you can ask your mentor, right? Then again, we want repeat clients, right? Put your clients' details in your calendar, their anniversary, their birthday, special important dates for them, and then reach out to them annually. Hey, I know that your 5th year anniversary for your wedding is coming up. I didn't know if maybe you want to do a trip for it. Or maybe you did their honeymoon. Hey, I didn't know if you want to do a trip a year after. Those are ways we can show them we know when their things are that are important to them, right? During travel, you do want to know their travel details. Check flight status so you know what's going on and can anticipate any problems. Know the weather, right? I have, lots of weather alerts on my phone. I'm getting things saying that there's, potential hurricane activity. I have no one traveling, so I'm not really paying attention to it. But I know that I'm getting those alerts so that when I do have people traveling, I know that I get alerts about it. Handle any issues the client encounters, whether it be a flight delay, a cancellation, they missed a connection, there's an issue with their room or with something when they get there, any concerns they have, anything that was supposed to be included but hasn't been, those are things we can help with, right? Now, sometimes the answer is going to be, I need you to go to the front desk and tell them this. Sometimes we do have to tell them what they can do to fix it, right? But our job is to handle and anticipate any problems for the clients, because we service our clients from the time they leave, the time they reach out to us to book a trip through they've returned home, as well as any feedback they want to give us after that trip. Either for myself, hey, what could I have done better for you? Or about where they went, right? We want to give the best possible customer service we can. I know this is a ton of information, so I do want to open it up for questions.